And the worst thing that could happen, kind of ironically, is that they go viral prematurely. They go viral without a true understanding of who they are. Then they're lost when the views inevitably go down. And when the views go down, the purpose is gone.
Hello.
Good morning. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So we are here to talk about credibility. And I guess my first question for you is, being a doctor, how do you think about creating content that is credible on social media?
The world of social media and creating content from an authoritative standpoint has really changed over the last 10 years. I remember in 2017, I wrote an article for the American Academy of Family Physicians where I said the absence of evidence-based physicians online is going to create a problem because we're not there to give an alternative, accurate view of our expertise. There were so many people sharing their knowledge without actually having the expertise to back it up. And as a result, what we saw during the pandemic was an influx of myths and disinformation where it led people to make really bad decisions for their health. So much so that they lost loved ones, made terrible decisions for their children. And for me, when I make content, it's always in a way where I'm trying to tap in to a communication method that will allow me to be relatable, transparent, honest, and reach people on a different level. Because traditionally, doctors present information, frankly, that's boring. We talk like scientific textbooks. But the more we can incorporate cultural events, entertainment, laughter, be more human, the more we can reach people on a wider scale with our knowledge so they too can make better decisions for themselves.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I'm the most followed lawyer in the world. You're the most followed doctor in the world. And I think for legal and medical information, it's hard to not make it boring. So to succeed on social media, there's that balance between making it accurate, but still making it like clickable on social media. And you can't always, for the legal things that I talk about, I can't always read the entire terms and conditions. I have to just read like the 5-second bullet point and then kind of leave out the rest of it strategically so that it still goes viral on social media. Do you think the same way about your content?
Absolutely. In fact, the easiest way to differentiate between a real expert on social media and someone who's just faking it is the amount of confidence by which they present the accuracy of their information. In the beginning of the pandemic, when I was talking about coronavirus, COVID-19, it was talking about with what we know now, how things might change, where the science will create an evolution in the process of our knowledge. That's the normal way science works. In fact, that's what creates a lot of anxiety in all of us. Facts are not stable. They change, they evolve. That's the natural part of science, but it creates anxiety. And we like order in our lives. For example, if you have a partner that is to cheat on you, that's a fact that has changed. It creates a lot of anxiety. We deal with that in a variety of ways. Children will create imaginary friends when they're lonely to ease that anxiety. Adults, we create categories. We have our own languages. The legal language is impossible to understand. The medical language is the same. And we try and create this order. But the reality is we have to become comfortable with the uncomfortableness of change. And only with that process can we start creating content from that level. So you have to lean into the discomfort that exists and be honest and transparent as to why you're presenting the information.
What is your process for content creation on the back end, making sure that everything is accurate and well researched?
Everyone's going to make mistakes when you make as much content as we do. I mean, 1,000 videos in, 4 billion plus views. Just this last year, long form, we had 700 million views of accurate evidence-based information, but that's not to say that I was infallible. Mistakes are made, information changes, things that I once learned in medical school need to be updated. So you have to go back and update certain things, you have to make certain adjustments, and the process really is never stable. And it needs to be that way because we're humans, we're not robots. And that's actually what makes us special and why I think AI is not necessarily going to take over the medical space completely.
Because people want a human that they trust, that is credible.
Well, it's great that you say the word trust, because a lot of people will find reasons as to why my content has gone viral from their belief system. But I think the key to why I have this many views and why our team has been so successful in creating this content is because we led with trust first. It's very easy to have social media success and right away start taking sponsorships without thinking through what that means to you as an expert. And we've been very careful in that process. Again, not perfect because we're always learning, but we always try to sit there with a level of humility in understanding that things will change, that we need to do better, and we need to consistently refine our methods.
For the content creators in the audience who are trying to build that trust with their audience, what are your best tips?
I think you can't start teaching, exploring, without first learning who you are. You have to be able to lead with know thyself. It's actually a motto that I sort of live by, because before you decide who you want to settle down with, what career you want to go into, what content you want to make, how to create a community online, you have to first know what you stand for. The number one job kids want these days is to be a YouTuber. And the thing that I tell them is that that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a bit premature. They have to first go out and learn something, experience something, that they can bring that experience and knowledge to YouTube to share with the world. Because without it, what happens, and the worst thing that could happen, kind of ironically, is that they go viral prematurely. They go viral without a true understanding of who they are. Then they're lost when the views inevitably go down. And when the views go down, the purpose is gone. So the purpose that you set for when you make content cannot be about numbers, cannot be about views, because those things will continuously roller coaster. It needs to be about principles, passion, and the definition by which you live your life, and that can only happen with knowing yourself.
Yeah, one of the things I do is every single day my team sends me a PDF with all the positive comments and emails and DMs that I've received, and it reminds me of the reason I started this was to have impact and to help people with their money. And sometimes it is easy as a content creator to lose sight of that when you get the negative comments or you get all these other distractions on social media. So I love the idea of having just one mission statement. What is your purpose? What is the impact you're looking to have? And then making sure that you're reminding yourself of that and not losing sight of that.
Very true.
What about for social media as a consumer of it? Besides looking at how confidently someone is talking about a subject matter, how can you differentiate between, let's say, a doctor on the internet who we should trust versus a doctor who we should not trust?
This is probably where I get the most criticism, and I'm going to say something controversial right now. There's a lot of doctors and non-doctors saying a lot of BS online. They're making a lot of false promises. They're making statements about shortcuts that exist for your health, whether it's a supplement, a treatment, a scan that will fix everything that ails you. I'm sorry to say that does not exist. I wish it did. I wish my 10 plus years of medical education could allow me to share that with you today. But on social media, that's what goes viral. And it's not the social media companies who are at fault. It's us. We're the ones that click the videos. We're the ones that are tempted by the headlines. And the reality is, when a doctor or even a layperson makes a statement like, this product cures what ails you, like this supplement will help you achieve becoming faster, stronger, sexier, what have you, that's great. But until you prove that to me, that's the same as you telling me right now that you're the fastest 100-meter runner in the world. It might be true, but until you get an Olympic verified timer with an Olympic verified distance, and watching you on camera do that, I unfortunately can't believe that, and I have to lead with a bit of skepticism.
Yeah, as you should.
So hopefully the audience can do that as well when they see some of the claims that they see online. And I actually have a message to the social media companies of an idea that I think would work well that came from my world in gaming, of all places. I actually like playing video games, and one of the games I play is a racing simulator. And when you race online, there's chances that someone will crash into you and ruin your race. And you can report them after the race. The problem is, we as humans tend to have a lot of emotional reasoning. So when we lose the race, everyone is quick to click report, report, report. But the game gives you a 20-minute cooldown before reporting. That if you truly think someone is a bad actor and constantly making trouble in the game, you can report them, but you need that 20-minute cooldown. So what I'd like the social media companies to do to curb some of this misinformation that's being spread is when someone sees an article that triggers an emotional response, it's a lot to ask, think slow, pause before you share. All these slogans are very positive, well-intentioned, but their effect hasn't been great. If social media companies instill a 10-minute, a 20-minute cool-down period after reading or seeing a headline, I think that will do a huge service to the general public about decreasing the amount of misinformation shared.
Okay, tough one for you. Do you think social media platforms should penalize creators who are spreading misinformation?
I think it's hard to make social media companies the bearers of deciding what's true and what's not. How can we say to YouTube, who's not a medical organization, to fact check the information that I'm putting out? Yes, they can rely on major organizations, the WHO, the CDC, the FDA, but those are organizations that are also fallible. As we saw through the pandemic, communication was not great. There was less transparency. We can learn from those moments. But just because we had failures that we need to learn from doesn't mean we need to get rid of the whole process as it exists. We need to bring those companies together with YouTube, with Facebook, and instead of getting rid of fact checkers, finding a way to make the information that's presented more accurate, more authoritative, and that step starts with bringing more experts like yourself and myself onto the platforms.
I like that. One of the things I tell people is that you should always look at the content creator's LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is, I think, the most legitimate platform in terms of being able to see their background, where their degrees are from, their credentials. And if they don't have a LinkedIn or they're using a fake name on social media, especially when it comes to money advice, which I deal with, that's usually a bad sign, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a big problem, and some social media companies have been more forthcoming with the process. What I'm really proud of on YouTube is that in many countries, there's a verification system to see that you're not just putting on a white coat and saying you're a medical provider, you actually have the degree. So they go a step above and beyond to actually verify that you're in fact a practicing medical professional. And that means a lot, because these days, if someone puts on a white coat, sounds very credible, very confident, when you go to your doctor, they're not confident, which is the right way, you feel like you want to believe the person who's more confident. That's how we're trained as humans. But if we're being honest, when a patient comes into my office and asks me about their abdominal pain, I won't give them the exact diagnosis. I'll give them the most likely diagnosis, followed by 3 other diagnoses that it could be, a treatment plan that might or might not work, the second treatment plan that might work if the first one fails. That's how we do medicine. That's why it's a science as much as it is an art. And those people who actually will hijack the information for their own good or for spreading mis and disinformation won't do that. They'll promise you, oh, if you get headaches, it's because you don't take in enough pink Himalayan sea salt. And that's an actual video that has gone viral on social media.
What is the worst viral medical advice you've seen?
I honestly think it's not about one piece of advice that's gone viral. I think it's more about the insidious impact of fostering distrust with us as medical professionals and medical organizations. It takes just a few bad actors to start creating distrust amongst the general public, to feel like that they need to fear their doctor. And while doctors are ones to make mistakes, because again, we're human, we need to understand that science is a process. It evolves. It's imperfect. We're bound to make mistakes, but we're constantly learning from those mistakes. The people that are working behind the scenes at the major medical organizations, I recently just did a trip with UNICEF to Copenhagen and saw the work that the scientists are doing behind the scenes, the people who are delivering vaccinations to the remote parts of the globe. People will sometimes walk miles to get a single vaccination, yet in developed countries where we have a lot of wealth, people will question and deny getting vaccinations. So it goes to show how important it is to have a healthy line of communication and to be a healthy skeptic.
And what do you think is that line between misinformation versus just bad advice?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own definition. I've heard that misinformation is when you share something unknowingly inaccurate. Disinformation is when you're doing it knowingly. I've also seen misinformation be something like Grey's Anatomy showing the incorrect way to do chest compressions versus disinformation, someone spreading dangerous anti-vaccine rhetoric online. And it's not to say that we need to treat science as a religion. We need to say that we need to be very strict. This is the only way forward. We need healthy debate. We need healthy skeptics. But it's about waiting to get good information as to why we're being skeptics. The very first person who recommended that doctors wash their hands in between patients was viewed as someone who has mental problems. Actually thrown in jail, lost their life for it, and now has universities named after them because they were saying the truth. Their ideas were correct. But imagine back then saying, there are these things that you can't see on your hand that are actually causing us problems. It was very hard to fathom. But as time has gone on and science has evolved, we found that to be true. So I don't think we necessarily need to discount all the individuals who are proposing theories. We just need to treat them as theories and not as proven fact.
Do you think that, given that you've been on social media for over a decade, is it harder or easier now to build that trust with the audience?
I think now, because social media companies are allowing everyone a level playing field to go viral, to have success on social media, it's made it easier to find a community. So for example, 7 years ago, if I was to put out a video and I had no subscribers, it would be very hard to get views. Someone who had 1 million subscribers would have a much greater advantage. But now, if someone who has 10 subscribers to my 13 million has a good chance of going viral if people resonate with their content, if it's creating good engagement, if it's creating good watch time, good click-through rate. The algorithm is really a mirror of us, what we enjoy watching, what we derive value from. And that will constantly change, it will constantly evolve. That's why to be a good creator, you need to constantly do that process. You need to look at your content, look at yourself in the mirror, see what you're doing well, see what you're passionate about, and then bring that to the world.
I like that, but I think ultimately content is all about what is the problem that people are looking to solve, and then how are you as a doctor or me as a lawyer solving that problem and giving them the answer in as succinct as possible manner, right? At least that's been my formula for virality.
For sure, it's difficult because these topics that we're discussing require nuance. They require long-form discussion. But what I find interesting about social media, there's been this worry that with the advent of short-form content, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, IG Reels, people said attention spans are gone, no one can concentrate anymore, and I could see how logically they got there. But then why are now people watching podcasts that are 3 hours long? Why is that form of content starting to go viral? I think it's very difficult to make predictions, and we need to have a level of humility to see that there's going to be a lot of disruptors in this space, both from creators, lawmakers, and the general public as well.
Final question, what are your 3 best tips for content creation for the audience members?
Well, first has to be know thyself. You can't do anything well without knowing that process, and we touched on it earlier. Second is be a human first. A lot of people will say, Dr. Mike, it's not Dr. Mike, it's just Mike. I'm a human first, and that's what leads my content to be so relatable. I think about it as if there's a doctor talking to me, what I would like to know, how I would like to understand the information. And in fact, you should treat that, your job in any way, by being a human first. So whether you're a police officer, teacher, or otherwise. And then the following one is to embrace the term of being an influencer. I don't know about you, but I hated when I first started that I went through all these years of education and people said, oh, you're just an influencer. I'm like, hold on a second. If you're a parent, you're influencing your children to live a good life. If you're a professor, you're influencing your students to do well in their future endeavors. If you're a doctor, you're influencing your patients to learn about their bodies, take their medications correctly. Why am I scared of this word? And the reality is you have to lean into being an influencer. But when you lean in, you also have to understand the authority that is placed upon your shoulders and carry that and respect it to make sure that you're honoring the wishes of the general public to know that they're getting good quality information from you.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with the title. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.